Hey everyone, this is Ben with Stringer Bridge Farm, and today we got us a pretty good score of oyster mushrooms. I do want to make one disclaimer. I am no expert on fungi, but this is one mushroom I do know how to identify. In this video I'm going to show what I believe is the closest look-alike for the oyster mushroom in our area, South Louisiana. Now I think for me, there are a few mushrooms that kind of look like an oyster, but I find that they're not real easy to mistake for an oyster if you just know a couple of the basic things to look for. So, these I picked, they're really fresh mushrooms. They grew last night with a nice foggy night. There's pretty much no bug damage on these. And this right here is an example of one of the real key distinguishing features. They almost always grow in these clusters like this. They're not always quite this big. You can see I left a piece of bark on the back just kind of to demonstrate that this is actually how they grow. No stem, gills that run all the way to where they kind of come right out of the wood of the tree. They got a very unique smell, kind of like a licorice type smell. Once you smell them, I don't think you'll mistake it for too many other mushrooms. But we had kind of a foggy, warm night last night, and there were no mushrooms yesterday, and you wake up in the morning, they got all these beautiful mushrooms hanging off of the trees. Like is always pretty much standard for our area. Our property, we have a lot of tallow trees and a few willow trees, but these things grow really good on dead, standing tallow trees. That's probably their number one tree I find these things on. So just come along, I'll show you a couple of spots where I picked them in just a minute, and I'll show you one of the ones that looks a lot like these oyster mushrooms that you do not want to mistake for an oyster mushroom. So really don't know how toxic these lookalikes are, but I do know you do not want to make a mistake when picking a mushroom. So anyway, again, don't use this as a full-on guide. I think you still need to probably tag along with someone who knows a lot about mushrooms, at least the first couple times, until you learn a few of the key distinguishing features of these mushrooms. But it's just one of those things I enjoy doing, and my family enjoys eating them. So I'll show you what we got. And today, I walked out the door. First thing I see is right here, really nice cluster of fall oyster mushrooms. This is very classic. These are very fresh. They grew last night. Pretty much always grow in these clusters like this. You kind of look under them, see all those gills like that. Pretty much no bug damage on these yet. These are really fresh. So yeah, with that, I kind of kept my eye out. I was doing a little work on the property in the back, and I noticed a couple more logs with them. So I'm gonna grab this log right here real quick, and then I'll show you what the other one looks like. We'll probably stop when we fill up a 5-gallon bucket. Figure that'll be enough. Hey guys, yeah, I left a few of these smaller clusters for let them go to spore, so we'll have plenty of others. So that'll give me about 1.5 gallons right there. So we'll go around to the back and check one of these other logs real quick and see if those are fresh, and we'll pick a few of those. Right here's that spot where I saw that second log full of mushrooms. So I was just coming down one of my trails right here, doing a little work on the tractor, and I saw this big bunch of mushrooms. Sure hope these are fresh. This is a really nice cluster. Let's see. Oh yeah. These look nice and fresh. Kind of look on them. You don't see any bug damage. No actual bugs on them, anything. It was pretty typical. So you look at this tree. It's just an old dead tallow tree, and that's probably the tree around here that I see them on the most. Is these tallow trees and then willow trees. I have occasionally seen them grow on some other trees. Like hackberry is one that I've seen them grow on, but tallow and willow is pretty much the two around here you see them on the most. And this is a mushroom I know you hear a lot that there's no lookalikes, that this is the easy mushroom to harvest, because I wouldn't say there's no lookalikes, but I think the way I would describe these mushrooms is that there's none that are easy to mistake for this mushroom. The one that I've seen that looks a lot like it, it grows on the ground. It doesn't grow on a log like this. So you see them growing on a log in these clusters, pretty much no stem. They just kind of, these gills that come just straight out of the tree. This is pretty easy to identify. Like I said, there's some that come out of trees that are white, maybe slightly resemble them, but not easily mistaken. See this one, old, full of bugs. I'm actually gonna leave this one. This whole cluster right here looks like, I don't think they're old. I think something just chewed on it, got it kind of nasty, so we'll leave those for some spawn. We'll pick a few other ones. Yeah, these look really good. Here's all mushrooms. Like something chewed on the tree right there. I got that one dirty. I guess we'll just leave it since it's dirty. So yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of research, maybe somebody to help you very first time. This is a pretty easy mushroom to go and pick without much danger of picking the wrong one and getting poisoned. It can happen, so I wouldn't recommend using a short little video like this as your only source of information. But they are a delicious mushroom. They got a very unique smell. Once you've smelled them, I don't think you'll ever mistake it. Yeah, they're just a really tasty mushroom, and pretty fun to go out and harvest. My 11-year-old son's gonna be pissed I picked these without him. He likes to come with me and pick them and eat them, so I won't be able to fry them tonight. I got a dinner, but he and I will cook them maybe tomorrow night. He likes to fry them, so I think we'll fry these up. I'll leave the rest of these. They're not real pretty, so I think I got all the really good ones. What's funny is the conditions aren't even ideal. You know, we had a little bit of fog last night. It was a little warm, but it's still pretty dry, and it's actually not ideal conditions. So I'm a little surprised to find multiple clumps like that. So we'll look around just a tiny bit more. If I see another clump, I'll shoot a little bit more video. Found another little clump. These don't look too good. I'm not gonna pick these, but I see a couple of these other mushrooms growing on this tree. You can see them right here. These are not oyster mushrooms. I don't know what they are, but this is one that, you know, I think could be mistaken for an oyster mushroom. You look, you see it's got the big gills. Kind of looks like it. But you see how it's growing on that stem? Definitely not an oyster mushroom. So I don't know if anybody knows what that is. Maybe they can comment, but I do know it's not an oyster. There's actually a second one on this tree, whatever these are. See, it's got a very similar look. It's got kind of these weird little things on top. Something actually chewed on that one. You can see a rat or a squirrel or something, and same thing. This one is growing up with the stem. So this is probably the closest look-alike I've ever seen to an oyster mushroom. I don't actually see these often. This is a mushroom I've seen before. There's one that looks a lot like this one that grows like on the dirt, and sometimes it's even in clusters, so it'll kind of look even look like an oyster, but it probably looks more like an oyster than this one, but it's growing out of the ground. So anyway, I'll keep going along, see if I can find a see, I went a few hundred feet in the woods, and I saw this big, the hurricane had knocked down this clump of tallow trees, and they had a couple of really nice oyster mushrooms here. You can see something grabbed one of those and drug it over, kind of ate on it. I guess it was a squirrel or raccoon or something, but it kind of shows Well, you don't really want to go and take everything that's out there because there are other animals that eat them. Yeah, you can see these are gorgeous, really fresh, just no bug damage, just beautiful mushrooms. Let's get a few more. Not nearly as big of a clump, but just as fresh and nice. So I'll get these few and add them to the bucket. Kind of get around this tree. Oh, there's somewhere. Can't quite see them. There's some other little type of mushroom growing in there. I'm not familiar with what that is, but definitely not oyster mushrooms. Interesting to see them growing on the same tree, though. See, I can see a bunch more tallow trees in here. I'm gonna see if I can find one more dead clump and finish off this bucket.